How cool is it to be creative and productive during this time? Because you've managed to not only make music, but make an amazing record and these amazing visuals and keep really busy.
Yeah, I mean, I've been working on this album with my partner Russo for the past 3 years, but we were able to finalize the album to perfection. I mean, I don't want to call it perfection because I might listen to the album tomorrow and say this is no, but seriously, I just love the album so much and how it's sounding, and we wouldn't have the time that we had to really perfect the sound of it. So I think it was really good, but for me to be able to be creative, during this time was so much easier because, besides being worried about the world and all of that, I was able to.
Hello.
Hello,
This is
Phil.
Russo.
I just made tea.
Very nice, very nice.
This is Russo. He's my partner in making music. He's not on camera, but he's there everywhere.
I'm aware. I'm familiar.
So yeah,
Talented
and
guy.
he's making me tea every now and then. Yeah, basically perfecting the album, but also, I mean, I kind of feel like my reality hasn't changed radically, besides the plans that I had to tour the world that have all been canceled and keep getting canceled as we reschedule them. But also, it's just less stress, less emails, less, I kind of felt like for me, the beginning of it, when everyone were like frozen and shocked, for me, it was like the most creative time, I think, because everything was quiet and I was able to think.
Yeah. And what I've heard of your music, the stuff that's come out of that, just immediately struck me, like I know it strikes a lot of people, is just so fresh and so modern and so now. Just talk about where that comes from in you to be able to, what you're tapping into to create this unique sound.
Well, it is, first of all, it is really important to mention, the hot guy that just walked in, because this is, it's not just me in this. I'm the face of this, but basically this is continuous collaboration between the minds of myself and Russo, and we've been, we have our, the music that we both like, and our musical taste is mostly similar, but then we have our differences. And I kind of feel like in this album, we were able to get into the groove of kind of working on those differences that we have between us and creating music in the space, between where we're different. And I mean, I don't know what makes it sound fresh. I think that many people say that this is fresh, that this is something that they haven't heard, but for me, I can totally hear everything that we're listening to, and I'm not ashamed of, our influences and all of that. I just think that we're blending a bunch of things that tend to be very diverse. So that is what makes it kind of a new thing.
Yeah. Talk about your confidence and style as a performer. There's a certain fun swagger to what you do that I kind of picked up on. That's fun to watch. I'm sure people really are digging when they see it. Talk about when you're creating these videos or when you're on stage, what's going through your head when you're bringing these songs to life?
I think that, I mean, performance has not come easy to me as much as it kind of seems so natural to me. I was always into performing arts, but for me to be able to do things in front of people, when it comes to performing on stage, obviously in front of thousands of people, that is obvious, but also, sometimes the situation of being on set and having to kind of be in character while other people are watching. I think actors are working on that a lot, getting inside a zone while other people are watching and kind of, doing things that are basically very, very weird. But I just think that, I think my best performance yet is this last single that we just released, which is End of the Road. And what I'm basically doing there is walking and changing the way that I walk. And I feel like in that minimalism and inside those limits, I was just able to kind of think about what would happen if I was a pregnant lady. How would that kind of affect the way I walk. And if I was a soldier, or if I was an old woman, or um, just a really little, like a little kid, I was changing characters in that. I was basically, and it was a choreography, but at the same time, I had to kind of channel many sides of me that I have in myself, which is, I can be a really, I have old, I'm a very, old person, but I'm also a kid. And I'm always kind of in between those, in this scale.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, and it's such a great song, and that song's getting attention here. That single before the record comes out. Put into
yeah.
words that song and the importance of that song to you, and what's behind that message there by the end of the road.
Well, I mean, End of the Road is a song that we wrote about, you know, end of the road, what happens to all of us, the one thing that you really know about this life, which is that eventually you're gonna die. I mean, it's basically about that. But, I've had many thoughts about death, and Ori and me had many conversations about this concept of death, because we've had an experience within our family. We lost someone that we really love, and it got us talking. And those things kind of get you in perspective, if you can really say that very, very simply.
Mhm.
But then when you think about death, I mean, this song basically celebrates death as the limit to what, when you don't have limits. And I feel that about creativity, and I feel that about everything basically that I do. When I don't have something to work within, a frame of work, when it's a meeting, when it's an interview, when it's writing a song, when it's working on anything, if there are no limits, you really don't know kind of where you're going. And I think limits are something that is so important with helping us defining what it is that really what is meaningful to us. And same goes, in that larger scale of, our life journey, which is, sometimes knowing that it's going to be over is something that is so scary. But at some point I was like, well, this is the one certainty that I do have in life. And that makes everything before that just so much more meaningful, or just meaningless. It could all kind of be at the same time.
Yeah, and it helps when there's the occasional artist like you that can kind of sum that up in your way for the listener to
Yeah.
kind of take that in. It's a journey that we go on with you, and occasionally someone does that so well. So I think you
Thank
pulled
you
that
so
off
much.
with this one in a new way.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
And talk about the whole record, what we can expect. We've heard some of the singles already. In terms of the spectrum of sounds and music, you do a lot on this album, and you're tapping
Yeah.
into lots of different things.
Oh yeah. I mean, that's I think I really hope that people who loved the singles will not fuck off when they hear the album. Basically. No. I mean, but seriously, there's such a range to it. And there are intense, heavy songs in there, incredibly charged with anger and frustration, and a lot of experience that has to do with confusion, that and kind of the loss of hope for whatever it is in this world. But on the other hand, you have extremely hopeful songs like End of the Road, like saying, the fact that everything is so unknown is just a big celebration of potential.
Mhm.
And in between those edges, you have so many different things. So I think that up until now, people got a bit of a taste of the brighter side of the album. But then you have songs in the project Kids that are like Kids, the song that is a straightforward political song that talks about mothers that lose their children to war. And it has songs like Candyman, that basically talks about the person that comes and takes you to your next life. And all those different moments that I think kind of sum up the time in between. Yeah, when I released Off the Radar 3 years ago, and now, that was just a lot. So it's expect something extremely diverse. I hope not, like, not too all over the place.
Mhm. How excited are you about what this can mean for your popularity, attention in places here like America and overseas? How much of that do you think about? How much of that do you care about now as an artist?
I mean, I care about that so much, but I mean, honestly, I just wish I could go over there and meet people, because I feel like what happened to me in Europe, in the previous album, is kind of similar to what was starting to happen with the US now, because I've had some people listening to me and it was very, very niche and people were liking the album. And then we started to get booked to all these amazing festivals, because I think tastemakers tend to really like the music. But, for me to be able to make that music accessible to people, I feel like I really have to go there and bring them. And that is basically what happened with Europe. People would not know nothing about us. So we would get on a stage and then people would just stop on the way to another show because something about, I don't know, the shows were just extreme energy and amazing. And I feel like that was what I wanted to do with the US. So right now, that outlet is just not there. And I'm hoping to be able to somehow get that energy through. But yeah, it's just something to figure out. So that is basically what I'm thinking about. How do I get those people who are already out there listening
Yeah.
in the US and in Latin America and all over the world? Like, how do I get them to get so excited that they tell their friends and that kind of stuff?
Is it special to do that as an Israeli artist? Because there aren't a ton to break through over
Oh
here.
no, it's
So,
extremely special. Yeah.
so yeah, so that must be a unique identity that you feel proud of.
Yeah. I mean, here at home, I think there are so few examples. And usually what happens is that the things that tend to get successful are the things that carry some type of orientality, I would say, or some kind, something that sounds, I don't know, something that says Middle East, something that says, I don't know. But I kind of feel like I bring something that is so influenced by Western music that it's almost like sometimes, what am what am I trying to sell these Americans? I mean, I speak in an accent that is like almost American, but Americans can tell that I'm not from America. And it's like you try to make music kind of like the music that we make. Why don't you bring Israel to the table, And I feel like that could be really exotic. I mean, that could be really nice. And I could, bring on the buka, which is like the Arabic drum, and, sing in like weird scales. But honestly, that would just not be very real to me. That would not be authentic because, yeah, it's just not my culture. My culture is like so global and influenced by so many different places. So yeah, I think it is basically the first time that an Israeli artist that has such a Western sound was able to kind of, do something outside.
Yeah. So if all goes the way it should, and this year gets better and better, what are your hopes and dreams for how this year will go for you globally?
I mean, I really hope as many people as possible would listen to the album and fall in love with it. I feel like this is, um, I just want people to know this music, to know me. I kind of feel like wherever I was able to go, or so the funniest thing is just happening now in Israel, which is like we've had a really amazing thing going on in Europe with Off the Radar, my first album. And in Israel, since we're like properly here and we're doing a bunch of things here, Israel is like blowing up for us. And it's like it's an insane detour because no one was paying attention to us in the first album. It was like nothing, and no radio, no nothing. And now every song that we put out is like on mainstream radio and everything. And I'm like, if they got convinced, because in Israel, it's like when an artist is making music in English and not in Hebrew, people are instantly like suspicious. It's like, why don't you sing in the language you think or dream at? You know, I think it's a very good question to ask. And people kind of, even if they don't consciously ask that themselves, they kind of feel it, you know?
Mhm.
And so we were able to kind of break through that and you know, touch people here. So I just hope that what happened here, with its kind of way of being slow and late blooming, would just happen around the world.
Thank you for watching. If you want more extra, hit the subscribe button and the bell so you'll never miss a video.